So doing a video of working on my Savanna 3500, needed a ball joint, and due to it being really cold, I'm going to voice over most of this, so let's get started. Alright, so today we're working on the 3500 Savanna, and we got a bad front driver's side ball joint, so we're going to go ahead and get the hubcap and wheel off, and we'll take a look at that. Sticking with the drill, I love these for getting these GM hubcap nuts on. Alright, so hopefully you'll be able to see that alright. Give it a little shake. Anyway, she's pretty much shot, so we're going to go ahead and get into that. Working on getting the whole brake caliper assembly off and brake rotor, so we can just get down to tie rod end and the ball joints. So getting those out of the way, feeding the ABS cable out of the way there as well. As I did not do here, it's always advised to leave that bottom ball joint nut on, just a couple threads to hold it in place when the whole thing falls. It's nice to have a clean area to work in, so I'm going to go ahead and get this upper side of the ball joint here all cleaned off. Not only is this going to help me see what's going on and prep it, but it's also going to help the ball joint want to come out a little bit smoother, because I'm going to be pulling in that debris into the ball joint socket, the lower control arm, as I start to press this out. So you got these 4 retaining tabs here that have been hammered out, and we're going to just chisel those back in to help that get in there. You can cut off that entire upper rim if you want, but I just try to chisel them back in, and that seemed to work perfectly fine. So it seems to be that nobody ever lubricates the threads on these ball joint presses, and they get all galled up and ruined. I grease mine every time, so thin layer on there, and you can wipe it back off if you're done, if you don't like it for storage. But it definitely, having a little bit of lubrication on this thing does help them run a lot better without screwing everything up. You are sadly supposed to use a wrench on these. Impacts a lot of times will mess them up too, because you're just putting way too much force into them too quick and not letting that ball joint kind of want to let itself out as the pressure builds up on it. And then you'll see in here that give her some taps with a hammer just to kind of shock it. I'm not beating the crap out of it, just nice solid thumps, and that helps the shock kind of just let everything kind of relax, push through there again. and then you'll feel that it's loose, tighten it up some more and do it again. Just like before, you got to go through and get her all nice and cleaned up so everything wants to go back together nice and smooth. So this bottom edge here had some burrs on it that were sticking down, so I'm just going through here and hit it with the wire wheel, and that's enough to kind of take off the little bit of ridge that was down there from corrosion. So just test fitting the cup to press it in. It did come with this the blue boot and this little plastic cap on it. They weren't pressed on, they're just kind of sitting on it in the box. I took those off and just trying to get a right fit up for which cup is going to push on the rim right there, so that we can get this thing all put together and not actually push on the joint itself. This top press plate I'm using here isn't going to be the right one for the final assembly, but it's at least going to get it up so we can get the ball joint in flush to the top of the control arm. So you can see this is an issue I was having when I was taking this apart too. The ball joint press keeps wanting to tilt because it's a little bent, or one of the cups are bent. Somebody did grind on them before I had it, so that was real nice. You gotta love that with the rental tools. So always inspect them before you walk out of the auto parts store with it. Just make sure it's going to be something you can use. Multiple times I've had to return them and get different ones because something's broken with them. So I ended up knocking the ball joint back out and starting again. Just think I might have been a little cockeyed on top of it being that this press isn't wanting to follow straight, but we got it started right this time and it's getting to go in there. Just taking it nice and slow, pressing, pulling it apart, checking on my progress, making sure it's coming in straight, making sure I'm not just smashing the ball joint against that top press plate there, and throwing it back together and pressing a little bit more. So here I'm just going through my options on how I can build this to try to get it to a height that'll fit within the ball joint press and push on the bottom right and fit over the top so that it can protrude to the top of the control arm a little better, and just struggling to find something that's actually going to work, and ended up landing on this. So this didn't fit on that top press ring right, so I ended up making an adaptation here in a minute, but I mean, at least got it started and was a kind of proof of concept that this would start to move it, being that it's just a piece of PVC off the shelf. So you can see I'm just going to iron it up right here, and that's not really sitting down into that lower ring on the press plate like it should, so I'm going to remake it and get something that'll actually work. So here's what I came up with. I just ended up heating up the end of the PVC and rounding it out, making it wider. so it fit over that groove or ring on the top press plate there, and I was able to get it to stick on there pretty good. See, it dropped it, didn't even fall off. Look at that. So getting started pressing here, we'll see how this thing's going to pan out for us. And just working this up and down nice and slow, just making sure I'm not gonna, just completely crush that piece of PVC, because after all it is just plastic. Giving her some wallops on the side, same as I was doing when I was taking it apart, and then just kind of working it up and down and tappy tap, and working it up and down and tappy tap until eventually get this to start to protrude through the top. And sure enough, slowly but surely, we are making progress. You can see that bottom of the ball joint starting to come up and contact the bottom of the control arm. So slow and steady, tap, 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 making progress. And that is actually working out amazing. So you can see the piece of plastic did incur a little damage there just from the edge of the ball joint coming up and smashing it. There's the top end that I heated up and flared. But all in all, this thing worked perfect, and I would imagine I could do at least one more ball joint with it. So getting the snap ring seated in there, because this type doesn't have the detinted out top end like the last one did. So with a little bit of grease on the grease boot there, and put it in the driver cup, and hammer it on here. It does look like it fully seats, and then I put the steering knuckle back on and started to grease it, and it either popped apart somehow or wasn't fully seated before, but I had to pull the knuckle back off and fix that. Got that old grease zerk out of there. Just going to use a straight up and down one this time, and I have enough clearance in this vehicle to do that, so no big deal. And get some grease back in there. Don't even begin to think I'm compensating for something by this wrench being just a skosh too big. It was just what was laying next to me. So the phone died for a little bit, but we got everything put back together while it was charging. Everything torqued down. New ball joint in. I actually put in new link pins because this one was about done. So yeah, there's a link pin from this side. And then that is the remainder of the link pin from passenger side, so we got a new one on there too. So just gotta throw the wheels back on, torque them down to 140 and call it a day. I was gonna say this over and over, is just using a drill with the clutch set up right is the absolute best way of putting these on. It's so much faster, and you're just not gonna break them if you get your clutch set right. So here's what I cut that off of. Just a piece of 2-inch solid core pressure rated PVC. I don't know that they make cellular core in this size, but just what I would go to the hardware store and buy is standard PVC. I cut a little piece off and, like I said, formed that outside edge a little bit to make it fit onto the press plate I was using, but worked like a charm. Just took it nice and easy, and I have broke a handful of cheap ball joint presses trying to just put, you know, ball joints in a Dana 30, so that I was able to get that 1-ton ball joint in. I find that super impressive to be able to do. It's just a little piece of PVC, a little bit of time and patience, and it all paid out. So I would absolutely recommend this to anybody that's in a pinch and has some of this material laying on hand while you're doing a job. This is the kind of content that you may slightly enjoy. Give me a like and follow. Leave some comments on your personal experiences, and we'll be getting into more projects in the future, like working on this pump, troubleshooting this golf cart, working on that car over there, get a 2-post lift in, the pump on that fuel tank right here. And then much later in the future, we got this Jeep we got quite a bit of work to do on as well. So hopefully I'll get better at making these videos and get some entertaining content out there for you guys.